I don't think I have to even say it. It's common knowledge that life can be boring. For a very lonely, unemployed young adult such as myself, I've gotten so used to boredom that fun is almost foreign to me. So, what do I do for fun? Of course, play around with the paranormal. I love ghosts, mythical creatures, strange phenomenons, and all that stuff. But one thing that I've always loved, but rarely had the guts to try out, are ghost summoning rituals. To introduce myself, I'm Luke, a non-social college student whose life consists mainly of goofing off on the computer. I spend most of my time online, and most of my friends are from other countries or states. When I'm in the mood for a good spook, I search up some interesting ghost stories or summoning rituals. Most of the time, when reading about these rituals, I toss them aside because I mainly don't see any point in trying them out. It's all stupid stuff like, if you do this, you're going to die. Or, even if you survive this, you will be haunted forever. Or that nonsense. When reading about those, I really wonder what the point of even doing them is. However, there was one ritual that caught my attention. Looking into some of the more popular ones, I discovered a Japanese curse referred to as the bath game. The rules were actually very simple, and I couldn't find anything about long-term consequences for playing it, so my interest was piqued. For those who don't know how the game works, here's the basic gist of it. Before going to bed, you must go into the bathtub with the lights out and close your eyes. You proceed to wash your hair while chanting, "Daruma-San fell down," continuously. After a while, a ghost girl will rise out of the bathtub, and you will see an image of this girl, as a human, falling in the bath, onto the taps and having her eye gouged out. It is then that you ask her why she fell, before leaving the tub and the bathroom without opening your eyes. Then, going straight to bed. The next day, the girl will follow behind you everywhere you go, trying to catch you to do God knows what horrible things. You have to keep looking over your right shoulder to keep her at bay, and if she gets too close, run away and shout, "Tamare!" When you wish to end the game, catch her in your eyes, make a chop motion with your hand, and say, "Kita!" If the game isn't ended by midnight, she will haunt your dreams. I was thrilled at the thought of having a chasing game with a ghost girl. Especially with the chances of her being cute. I jokingly said to myself that maybe I'll just let her catch me. I definitely wanted to do this, but one obstacle stood in my way. I live with my mother and stepfather, and they would never approve of me using the bathtub so late at night. My mother especially has a major fear of spirits and told me several times in the past not to perform rituals like this. As much as I wanted to listen to her, I couldn't resist trying this out. Luckily for me, my mother and stepfather just so happened to be going on vacation in a month, and I would have the whole house to myself. Perfect chance to take a late night bath with no opposition. For the next month, I started practicing, washing my hair in the dark, keeping my eyes shut, which I might add I'm really bad at, and navigating the bathroom to reach the door. It seems so easy to be confident while practicing. I told my friends in a group chat I'm in all about my plans to do the curse, but they doubted that I'd ever have the courage to do so, and would probably chicken out when the day to perform finally arrived. I knew I had to stay true to my plans. My online friend, who we'll call Matt, showed encouragement for me to pull it off. During our Skype calls, though, I could hear hesitation in his voice, almost as if he feared for me. As the day inched closer, I did a lot of research on the game, I needed to know all I could, and see if there were any facts that would break the deal of me even performing the ritual to begin with. There really weren't as many personal experience stories as I would have liked to see, but I suppose that just kept me in anticipation and wonder. After patiently waiting, building up the excitement more and more, the day finally arrived. With how hard it is for me to tire myself out, I made sure that I worked out hard throughout the day and stayed away from food or drinks that gave energy. If I was going through with this and go to bed immediately after my bath, I needed to be tired. At around midnight, I sent a message to my group chat announcing that I was going to do it. Matt gave me a good luck message before I closed my laptop and put it away. I placed an extra pair of clothes and a towel on my bed so I could dry off and change right before sleeping. The problem was, though, that no site said anything about if I was allowed to do anything in between bathing and sleeping. Since no one said not to, I supposed it would be alright. Now, here's where the creepiness begins. The moment I said I was doing the bath game and closed my computer, major disorientation filled me. I felt as if I had to be afraid, and I started to shake. For the entire month that I planned to do this, now was the first time I considered abandoning it. I shook this feeling off, turned off all the lights in my house, stripped naked, and headed for the bathroom. I don't normally take baths, I'm more of a shower guy, so I was still getting used to bathing. I filled the tub, climbed in, closed my eyes, and began washing my hair. Daruma-San fell down. Daruma-San fell down. Daruma-San fell down. The words I repeated fluently rolled off my tongue. I continued to chant, hoping that soon I would see the mental image and feel the one-eyed woman behind me. It felt like an hour before anything started to happen, but it was probably only a few minutes. The first sign of things going awry showed itself when the very warm water started to cool down quite a bit. I ignored the water cooling down, but then it happened. The image popped into my head. I could see it very clearly. It was definitely not an intrusive thought. It's easy to write off a mental image as being unconscious, as it's normal to see mental images when you put yourself in a scenario. This was not one of those. This was real. A young and pretty Japanese black-haired woman stood in a bath wearing tattered clothes. I stopped chanting for a moment when this came into my head, as it took me by surprise. Realizing my potential error, I immediately resumed. I knew what to expect in this vision, but I still nearly gasped in shock when the girl slipped and fell to her demise on the taps. I continued shaking as I knew what would happen next. This is what I had been practicing for. So why was I scared? I expected this. I put myself in the mindset that it would work. Why was I scared? From behind me, I could hear someone rising from the water. The temptation to open my eyes and look was unbelievably overwhelming. I started to finish off with the chant as I slowly stopped washing my hair. I wasn't alone. The girl, Daruma-San, was in the bathtub with me. Why did you fall in the bath? I asked out loud, following my instincts to ask the question the moment I could feel her behind me. I didn't know if I had to ask it in English or Japanese, but English apparently worked just fine. After speaking, a cold chill ran over my right shoulder. The shoulder on the side of the eye she lost. Now, the whole time I had been in the tub, I didn't have any problems with keeping my eyes closed, as surprising as it may be. However, it was now that my eyes practically begged to be opened. I couldn't risk opening my eyes, but I couldn't keep them shut for much longer. I had to go ASAP. Knowing Daruma-San could trip me, I carefully stood up and practically ran for the door. as dangerous as that might be while soaking wet in a dark room without any vision. I reached for the doorknob, but found myself to be too far away, so I forced myself to grab the knob, open the door, and run out before I slammed it shut behind me. The moment I reached safety, I opened my eyes. The feeling of finally being able to see, even if all around me was darkness, felt like a well-earned gift. And it now hit me. I did it. I performed the bath game, and I could look forward to a day of fun and running for my life. I didn't chicken out, and I was damn proud of myself. Not turning on any lights, I went to my room, quickly dried off before changing into my sleeping clothes. I took a decent amount of time doing so, which concerned me. Luckily, I had no trouble passing out very swiftly the moment I climbed into bed. No dreams that night. Nothing. For a moment, while falling asleep, I even forgot the dangerous thing I had just done. For now, it wouldn't be a problem. When I awoke, it was 6 a.m. The weirdness had already begun because that was way too early for me to wake up on a day where I had nothing planned. I tried to go back to sleep, but then I remembered that the game took place today. I instantly forced myself to wake up, knowing Daruma-San could easily snag me if I were to be sleeping. The feelings of disorientation from last night were still present with me, and this time, I did not feel alone. After constantly looking over my right shoulder for the first few hours of the day, I didn't see a darn thing. I could feel a presence, but I saw nothing. I couldn't help but wonder if it was just me getting all worked up about it. At around 9 a.m., I sent a message to my group chat giving an update. When Matt came on, he reminded me that I could always end the game if things got too intense. I thought it would be cool to take my phone everywhere with me today and record video updates throughout my day. After eating and doing my daily workout, I still failed to see anyone over my shoulder whenever I'd look. Getting tired of seeing nothing, I decided to challenge Daruma-San. I proudly announced that I would stop looking over my shoulder, giving her the perfect opportunity to get close and grab me. Risky? Hell yeah. But I'd do anything for this kind of thrill. I'm no expert on analyzing these sorts of things. But what happened soon after leads me to believe that it worked. Heading outside to go for a walk around the neighborhood, I told my friend behind me that we were going outside so she could give me a little chase. It was a gorgeous day, lucky for me, so I had no problem running around. I whipped out my phone and continued recording updates from my chat, as a light bulb suddenly flipped on in my mind. I read somewhere that Daruma-San is fond of dark places, and will become more aggressive in them. Wanting to test my luck, I started toward a dark tunnel near my house. When walking down an alley, I filmed a string of 3 quick updates and sent them to the chat. Due to the fact that my phone is very outdated and refuses to upgrade, the videos took a while to send. I kept walking, when Matt posted a screenshot in the chat after my first 2 videos sent. Looking at the screenshot from one of my videos, I could see myself, and something else. Behind me appeared to be very distinct black hair. Matt proceeded to ask what it was, and I frantically started searching all around me for what it could have been. I saw nothing around me, so I continued walking as I watched the videos I sent. Early into the first video, the hair popped up behind me for a brief second, before vanishing. Right after it happened in the video, I noticed that I started to sweat a lot and stumble on my words, something I rarely ever do. It didn't end there. I then noticed that the third video I sent did not go through. The first 2 sent perfectly fine, but the third in the trilogy received an error message and didn't send. The whole time I hadn't been looking over my shoulder, so Daruma-San must have been gaining ground on me. I needed to go home. I knew I would be cornered there. but something made it seem like a safe haven to me. I ditched the plan to go to the tunnel and started to head for home, as I could feel the girl inching closer and closer. The urge to look overcame me, and I tilted my head over my right shoulder. The sight I saw would be forever burned in my mind from that day forward. Standing directly behind me, in the same tattered clothes with the messy black hair that I recalled seeing in my vision, was Daruma-San. In the brief instant where I stood eye to eye with my pursuer, I managed to make out her face. She was extremely pale, no color whatsoever in her skin. Her right eye, of course, was a mere black hole. Daruma-san's left eye gazed at me, widened, and I could see her tiny mouth let out a small, evil-looking grin as I turned back. "Tomori!" I shouted before I ran off at full speed. I let her get too close, just as I hoped for. Was I regretting it now? Kinda. Running for my life and realizing just how slow I can be wasn't as fun as it may sound on paper. I did not stop running at all. I kept pushing toward my house. On a day over 90 degrees, I felt nothing but sheer coldness. Sweat rolled down me everywhere it could, yet I did not feel the slightest bit of heat. By the time I reached the back door of my house, I figured that I lost her. Despite this, I practically ran for the door and went inside. Checking over my right shoulder, and left one just in case, I saw nothing. I went to the living room, collapsed into my mother's chair, and took several deep breaths. Exhausted from all the running, I needed to cool down since the heat now hit me. By now, I was praying that Daruma-san wouldn't try to get me while in the chair. As soon as I recovered just a bit, I stumbled to my feet and went to my room to review the footage on my computer. When I watched the video of her behind me, I started to shiver. No doubt the thing behind me couldn't be anything other than black hair. A fun game such as this now became hellish, and I was afraid to continue it. The feelings of danger were too strong, and I didn't feel safe in my own skin. Constantly being watched, having to run for my life, seeing her face with my own eyes. The smile she cracked. It was all enough for me to want to end this. I read something during my pre-game research that said if Daruma-san expects me to try to end the game, she won't let me. Due to this, I devised a strategy to use against her. Opening my group chat, I gave yet another update, assuring everyone that I was alive, but now terrified for my life. Then, I put my plan into fruition and sent a message to the chat. I don't know when I'm gonna end this, though. I might never end it. How this worked in my mind, Daruma-san would see this and figure that I'm not ending the game anytime soon. In this way, I could catch her by surprise and end the game suddenly. What happened in the chat after this was weird, to say the least. Matt, who had been very serious about the game for a while, suddenly started acting differently, using playful emoticons and talking sarcastically, despite knowing how frightened I was. It's important to know that this is completely opposite of Matt's personality. Reading his messages kind of irritated me, and even angered me. Continuing our conversation, Matt made a sudden comment that silenced me. Very descriptively, Matt started to joke about Daruma-san eating me. Now, if you know me, you know there is nothing I hate more than the thought of cannibalism. It's not even a teasing hatred. I hate it so much that I can get aggressively angry when it's brought up. Matt knows this, and has seen me freak out during a discussion about it in the past. I tried to send a dismissing message, hoping it would make him stop. Well, it didn't. Matt proceeded to send yet another message, accompanied by a sarcastic-looking emoticon, where he continued to talk about the potential cannibalism of Daruma-San. Now, I was beyond angry, and cussed Matt out in the chat, telling him to shut the fuck up. After I cussed Matt out in a fit of rage, he immediately went offline. I wouldn't see him again for the next few days. Right after Matt went offline, a girl in the chat abruptly left. She was one of the most active talkers there, and I never expect her to leave of all people, especially as quickly and unexpectedly as this. I was still angry, so I turned off the computer and started to walk around my house to calm down. Part of me worried that maybe Daruma-san somehow took possession of Matt's mind, making him act strangely and say things that made me uncomfortable. After all, Matt knew the whole time that I would be doing this, and he had been seeing all my updates. I never thought this would impact the people around me, and if that were the case, I was prepared to conclude. A couple hours later, I began to sense Daruma-san behind me once again. I headed outside to go for another walk, knowing I might have to run. Sure enough, the ghost girl kept on my trail. I refused to look, letting her get closer and closer. Bringing myself into a running stance, preparing as I'm about to shout, "Tomare!" I turned almost my entire upper body to stare at Daruma-san. Exact same person I saw before. Only one minor difference. She was not smiling. A completely stern and serious glare crossed her face. She appeared to be angry. The one thing every human being should try to avoid, if possible, is an angry spirit. Now was my chance. Before I could give her time to react, I swung my right hand down in a karate chop and shouted as loud as I could, "Kita!" I didn't care if anyone else heard me. My life depended on this. I didn't stick around to see if it worked. I took off, charging far away to the opposite side of the neighborhood. I kept running, and running, and running. If I failed to end it, I was in major trouble. When I tired myself out enough, I stopped running and brought myself to a pacing speed, gasping for air. Slowly, but surely, the disorientation left me. I felt alone. No one was behind me. I took one final look over my right shoulder. Nothing. Was it over? Did I survive the bath game? I walked around the neighborhood once more before going back home. Now, the feelings were all gone. I knew the game had ended. I won. Despite this, I was in for one final surprise that no websites I read said anything about. When I went into my room to rest after such a long day, I laid down on my bed and heard a very clear, female, disembodied whisper in my ear. In English, believe it or not. "You won this time, Luke, but we will meet again. I promise." Moving into the after effects of the game, Matt and I both suffered major episodes of depression the very next day. The day after, I spoke with Matt again, and everything seemed back to normal with him. Also, I now feel very strange whenever I use the bathroom I perform the ritual in. I also find myself looking over my right shoulder a lot, just to make sure she's not there. Nonetheless, I'm safe. For now. To everyone who wants to perform ghost summoning rituals, I have one final thing to conclude with. If you're thinking of trying out a ritual, please take into consideration the people around you. You're not always the only one who gets affected. Also, always find out everything you can about a ritual before trying it out. Make sure there are no small details that you missed, because even the smallest of things can make the biggest of differences. However, I still can't help but feel unsatisfied. I think I want to do it again.